Hello there, and welcome to the Free West Media channel. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so before. And now, today, it struck me that the US is going the exact same route as South Africa, at least as far as farmland is concerned. We know that South Africa has borrowed a lot from the United States when it comes to affirmative action, so-called minority procurement, which in the case of South Africa became majority procurement, as the majority population is black. So there's a black racial preference when it comes to procurement from the state and major corporations, even though they are in the majority. And it seems now that in its turn, the United States is going to borrow from South Africa when it comes to confiscating the land of white farmers, or at least in the initial phase, the Democratic Party plans to buy land from white farmers and then hand it over to black farmers or African American farmers in the USA by means of a grant system. So, the white farmers, they have to buy land, but the black farmers, they will get it for free. This is exactly the same system which was implemented in South Africa as part of so-called land reform and land restitution in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. But eventually the state runs out of money, and then, more radical alternatives come to the fore, such as the latest policy, which has been announced as expropriation without compensation, or so-called EWC. Now, the United States is not there yet. It hasn't adopted the radical solution of expropriation without compensation yet, but it's starting on the path of transferring land to black or African American farmers, or at least that is what the Democratic Party wants to do. They have a bill. It's called the Justice for Black Farmers Act, which, if passed, would have the effect of transferring millions of acres of farmland to so-called black producers. Now, within the liberal paradigm, race is usually seen as a social construct, but in the wording or in the language of this new bill introduced by three Democratic senators in the USA, they talk about black farmers, and then they describe a black farmer as in the following terms. They refer to an eligible black individual. That's somebody who would qualify for these land grants. The federal government would use its money to buy up these farms and then simply give them away to so-called eligible black individuals. And in the act, or in the bill, an eligible black individual is defined as a person who, and I'm reading now from the bill, A, was born in the United States, B, is at least 21 years of age, C, has previously identified as black or African American, and D, has at least one parent of African ancestry. So there you have it. It's quite easy for the Democratic Party in the United States to define a black person, even though usually we are told that race is simply a social construct. There they have it. You simply have to identify as black or African American, or have one parent of African descent, and then you will qualify for this bill. Now, they say here that, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, he's the lead sponsor of the bill. He says, when it comes to farming and agriculture, we know that there is a direct connection between discriminatory practices within the USDA and the enormous land loss we have seen among black farmers in the past century. He said the bill would enact reforms within the USDA to finally end discrimination within that agency, protect the remaining black farmers from losing their land, and provide land grants to create a new generation of black farmers and begin to restore the land base that has been lost by black farmers due to outrageous discrimination over past decades. Now, this is exactly the same logic that is being used by the Afro-Marxist ANC regime in South Africa. Once land has been transferred to a so-called black farmer, a white owner or a white buyer will never be allowed to put in a bid for such land again, ever. They work according to the system that once land has been taken over, it must stay within black hands. So whites would then be discriminated against, or they would simply be excluded from the future pool of buyers of this land. In fact, it becomes a form of socialism, because where so-called black farmers do not make a success of the farm, it would then revert to the state or to some state agency. And they are talking exactly about that in this bill, because they are going to form a kind of a bureaucracy that will administer this act and this process of buying up farmland from white owners and handing them over for free to black owners. So there we have it. As I've always maintained, it's almost inevitable that as the demography of the USA changes and the Democratic Party gets more and more radical, then the same policies that are being applied in South Africa are going to be applied in America and in other countries where the same demographic change would have taken place. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and until next time, goodbye.